Hi everybody, it's ProbablyRed, and I am glad to bring you the deck tech. Alright, so this is a deck tech for Fragment Gate, one of my favorite of the Triple Ts so far. Also, this marks the first Triple T or the first Triple T deck tech that's going to get a scoring system going on. So I'm going to go over all the cards and then we'll do the scoring. Let's jump right into it. First of all, Lucky Prospector. This card in this particular build completely overperformed. Endurance was relevant because people love permafrost. Linrai Stranger has been moving up in popularity from what I've noticed. What else has been a big stun? I mean, a couple times I used Crystallize, and then I use Eye of Winter, so like against the mirror, if the mirror existed, which actually the 3-faction version of this deck, I did see it a couple times. So I mean, it's possible. Could see some of that. Like Eye of Winter potentially. But anyways, Lucky Prospector just being a 3/3 for 1 is crazy. Like it is such a strong card. The only time that this card like kind of even had a bit of it not just being the perfect card was it was kind of killable to stuff like Jack, which most things are. Most of this deck is really, except for Seasons Blunker. Um, but another thing is, and if they kill your 1-drop, it's bad when they kill a 1-drop and a 2-drop or something like that. Or 1-drop and hit your face for 4. But another thing is that it being an explorer, there's actually a good bit of explorers in here just off the cuff, like just out of nowhere, unexpected. You'll get hit and be like, oh my gosh, did that Blight Moth really just give me 3 -1/-1 permanent stat debuffs? Like that's crazy. So that's where it kind of hurts a little bit too. Other than that, though, this card was awesome. Like perfect synergy. You'll see why as we get into our attachments and some of our units. Next, we're going to talk about Book Club Yeti. This is a 2-cost 3/1, and you can sack it to deal damage to target enemy unit or unenemy unit equal to the highest cost among your relics. This sometimes can be a pretty weak ability. Usually you'll have a relic, but sometimes it's a Rakdodon egg, and then it's not that great. But like anything else, it gets crazy. Like it is one of your key removal pieces. And then if it's not being a removal piece, like if you don't have to use the removal piece, it just lands and sticks and just keeps attacking. Boom, 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 dealing that 3 damage. If there's nothing to kill and there's nothing to impede it, then it's gonna shine. Like it's a pretty good card. I thought it was okay in draft, but in this deck, it's actually pretty solid. Like it has performed pretty well. Next, let's jump into Shardbinder. Shardbinder is a 3/2 with Overwhelm that makes the first relic ability per turn that you spellcraft or activate cost 3 less. This card is amazing. It makes Waystone Gate runnable in a constructed environment. It does not. It's a non-bow with Sodi Spellshaper. Just so you know, before running this deck, you might be saying, "What the heck's happened? Why won't it work on Sodi Spellshaper?" It's a relic ability or relic spellcraft. Just to clarify, I've ran into that a couple times. I'm pretty sure that's what was happening. Because I couldn't figure it out at first, and I was like, "What the heck?" Oh, okay. That makes sense. This is an attachment, but not a relic. But it's a great card. Like not just in draft, but okay, 2-cost 3/2 with Overwhelm. Pretty good. Pretty decent. Give it that second ability, it'll blow you away. Like this card is crazy the amount of value. Like people will see this and are like, "Oh my gosh, I have to kill the Shardbinder." It's a huge target, and it is pretty killable, but this is an aggressive deck, so a lot of the health on these units is really low. So, speaking of which, Antique Polisher. This card came out of nowhere. I was surprised. Like when I ran it, I ran 3, but if I was gonna like and win, because I actually have another version of this that I changed a couple things, but I haven't tested it that much, so I don't want to show it. Maybe if I bring this deck back in the future, like in another expedition, if expedition changes, I'll be like, maybe I'll call back to it and be like, hey, let's try this again, because it's definitely like one of my favorites. It's one of the better decks or triple T's I think I've done. And it's got endurance, which is irrelevant, especially when you just got like Lucky Prospector, Antique Polisher. That field and your opponent's running Primal, oh my gosh, it's such a good feeling. It's so good. And then other stuns, like some of the Justice stuff stuns. Like, I mean, doesn't come up too often, but like maybe a Rebuke with something that just like you know, stunning stuff. Mostly it's Silence and Justice. But yeah, Antique Polisher can be pretty solid against the good old just an incidental. That's the thing, is it's just incidental endurance. 4-2 stats, pretty decent too. I mean, the 2 health is kind of bad, but the 4 tech is pretty nice. It pushes through a lot of stuff, especially when like this deck is totally kind of a tempo-y aggro mix-up. Summon, reduce the cost of relic in your hand by 2. This actually lets you, like in absence of Shardbinder a lot of the time, lets you use your spellcraft abilities. Like, for example, well, you'll see in a minute, but you'll see what I mean. But okay, yeah. Next, so yeah, it's a really good card. Like, I know I've been saying every card's good, but it just like this unit package makes the relics excel. Like everything like that is revolves around relic matters. I would say out of the units so far, well, let's get through all of them and then we'll talk about which one's the best, which one's the worst, which one shine the most, which one shine the least. Indiana Jones. No, I'm just kidding. Seasoned Splunker. 3 cost, 3/3. +2/+2 while you have a relic. Same kind of deal as Lucky Prospector, except this one doesn't have endurance. Now, instead of endurance, you get that nice ultimate that lets you put a relic out. You can pay 5 to get a Power Stone. Power Stone, I love this doesn't put it in your hand. That is pretty big. It's like pay 3 to draw a card, but you know exactly what it's going to be. You guaranteed as relic, which is good in this deck. And then it plays it for the other 2 costs. So 5, but you have to do it in 1 shot. Now if you go 3, then do something on 4, and then do that, it doesn't feel too good. Like I've only done it a couple times, but when you've gotten like if somebody's up against you and they keep doing, I think they're called Siege Breakers, the 6 cost 6/5 that destroys a relic, and then if you kill it, you get to search your deck for a relic and put it in your hand. That thing, and other relic removal. This guy is a lifesaver, and even just the stats. If you've got an Erecton Egg for a couple turns, it's amazing to just be able to swing in for 5 with a 3 cost. It's crazy stats. Like it's almost, I think it's better just because of how easy it is to get that, and like the bare minimum's better. There's these Raptor things that cost 2 and they're 6/6. That's what this feels like, but this feels like a fair version of that, like not a totally like not good version. It just plays so crazy good. And finally, my least favorite of the units, I'll just say it because we're already on there. Still pretty good. Still pretty good. It feels kind of bad running a card like you could just run the what is it, Valkyrie Enforcer, I think it's called, the 3 cost 3/3 silence a unit on summon. That card's really good, but it is not an expedition. One that is, there's the Sky Serpent, and I do not remember the name, but the Sky Serpent's like a 3 cost 3/3 spell damage +1. That card's really good. Like that's what this is. Except you don't have to have a relic to make it cost 3. Spell damage +1 would do nothing for us in this deck. Absolutely nothing. So in that sense, it's better. Where it shines though is the pledge. It actually does make a difference. It's just very incremental. And this card does do some stuff. It's just like I expected this card to be crazy good. And it saved our butts a lot of time. Like it's, you know, it pushes pretty well. But yeah, I wasn't too disappointed. It was about where I thought it would be. But it is the least I mean, it's better sometimes than other cards, but I think I even liked Antique Polisher more than I liked Acantha's Outrider. And then the card that shined the most to me, definitely Shardbinder. Easily Shardbinder. Best card in the deck. 100%. Like, it just makes the deck. Shardbinder is key. If there were, oh my gosh, I hope they keep making cards like Shardbinder because it is the best kind of build around. It makes the build around so much fun. It just enables so well. And I know they just made the guy I use as my profile picture, my avatar. He's cool looking. I haven't got to actually play with him yet, except for during the preview. I think I played him once. Did that off camera, I believe. I might have recorded that. But so he's cool. I haven't done any three faction decks lately, like, and I didn't want this to be three faction because it's more aggressive. Anyways, now I'm just ranting, but I really like Shardbinder. Next, let's get to the attachments. 23. You'll notice there's only 4 spells. We'll get there though. So there's 4 Rakton eggs. I feel like people kind of just don't like Rakton egg. I'm not saying they're underestimating it. I just think it needs a certain type of deck, and I was trying to like where I kind of got the idea for this deck. One, there's just so much awesome relic synergy. Two, I got it from just like seeing really good drafters be able to like, especially in the last format, not Flames of Zolta, but early Echoes of Eternity, just being able to build great relic decks in that format with the cards you get in draft. Like, I'm like, some of these cards are good enough to play in a constructed environment, especially Expedition. Um, and then I was trying to build an Empower deck with 3. I was trying to build an Empower deck. So I was testing out this card, and it wasn't amazing in the Empower deck, but it was pretty good. Like, I mean, it was a kind of a fillery card. But just like with how much power and health or attack and health the other cards in this deck have so early, and how it synergizes with that relic synergy, it's pretty good. I'm not gonna say it's blowing my mind. The relics, some of the relics are a little bit more disappointing than the units. I just love the units in this deck. But the Rectronic, the 4/4 is nice. And the relic for a couple turns, it kind of feels like sometimes you want it to be around longer. But then it's literally just a 1 cost, doesn't do anything. So yeah, creating a 4/4 is really great. I have Winter. This card, since it's buff, I've been wanting to play with this card. I feel like it has the potential to be like a really uh in my personal opinion, a negative play experience to play against a card or a deck that utilizes Eye of Winter. And now, at least in my opinion, also I don't think like this was that deck. I didn't play against my deck. I don't know how my opponents felt, but I don't think like Eye of Winter was the most powerful card or even the most frustrating. It was just it plays like Permafrost, except you can move it by paying more into it. Um, and it's only once per turn, but you can just shift that to their most powerful problematic unit. And this deck only goes so high. Like, the highest cost unit is a 3 cost. The way my units get better is either I just get through with damage really quickly, remove their biggest threats, or I kind of like build kind of a mini Voltron-esque thing with the spell shaper, like very tiny incremental buffs, and then but we'll get on a spell shaper in just a second, and then other ways we boost. But yeah, even just like there's a lot of times where 1, it's a relic, and 2, 4 cost stun, like off the top, like, and it just helps like that. Having both of these out, like, isn't a bad thing. You just pay 4 to stun 2 units. It's like drawing a card at the beginning of every turn that says if you pay 4, stun 2 units. There's cards that cost 3 that do that, so I mean it can get pretty powerful. Yeah. And of course, like, you can spread your stuns over turns across 2 units, so it can make you get through. So that's one of the reasons it plays well in aggro. And the reason I think this doesn't get like oppressive in this deck per se, like in my opinion, is this aggressive deck. So we're using it like like what is it called? The Cloud of Dust or Cloud of Ash. just like Cloud of Ash-esque effect. We're just getting rid of blockers with this thing. Now, if we're doing the long game, which this deck can do, and we're trying to slow down aggro, it works like that too. It's a very versatile card. I love this card in this deck. Sody Spellshaper. Now this card, it creates some feel bads. It's like the opposite of Eye Winner. It actually got nerfed. Not while I was playing this deck, way before. But this card's awesome. So good. I feel like it's kind of a victim of the decks that it was in that made it so it got nerfed, but it just, and the way Equivocate feels, I actually don't mind getting equivocated. When Sody Spellshaper first, like, I started playing in this like Sody Spellshaper meta, more so I would guess when I was playing a little bit more Throne, but maybe when Expedition Sody Spellshaper was popular. I don't mind getting equivocated. It's fun to just get a random unit of equal cost. Now, if it's destroying your attachments to that, and like the fact that this is a tempo play, it's a little bit more hurtful, and it can feel devastating when your opponent does it. Puts this on a flyer, takes away your big flying unit, turns it into like some garbage vanilla unit that you can't even use, like because everything your opponent's side is flying, and gets to draw a card off of that, and is going to get the promise of drawing more cards. Like, you're just like, what just happened? Where did this go? Like, I mean, I just lost so much tempo, and they just gained so much advantage. Playing this card, though, feels great. Like, it is a smooth, slick design of a card, even at 5. And it does not fit this deck at all, it would seem, except for like, in its only multi-faction card. It does not fit with this deck. It's like I'm just putting a spell that has nothing to do with relics. The reason it's good is just because it's so strong in Elysian. It'd be like if I was running Sandstorm Titan, which, I mean, I could just make this Elysian great stuff and then kind of build a relic theme afterwards, which maybe I'll try that at some point. But this is the one that made it in, that was just Elysian good stuff. Next, let's move on to Waystone Gate. This card was a lot worse than I expected it to be, and I'm not even kidding. Like, a lot of the time, because it's just slow. The reason is it's slow. Now, it does, like, it gets you, like, in the middle of the game, it feels like you're just, like, being pulled apart. It's like, over here's the aggressive side of the deck that just wants to push for damage, and over here's your big stuff that just wants to be able to be played, and you're just like, okay, I need to use Waystone Gate. I need a Shardbinder. Even when you hit this with Antique Polisher, most of the time what it's doing is it's just saying, I have a relic now. And which is a good thing when you don't have one, but if you already have like one of your other relics out, like even a Rakdon Egg or Eye of Winter, it can make Waystone Gate feel just really mediocre. Now, there are times when you can just like go through it, like boom, get my sigils. And maybe I was misplaying a bit by not just grabbing sigils as fast as possible, because at the end, that 8/8 is so effective in just completely transforming how this deck plays. So like if you can go like turn 6, turn 7, and then you get your giant, this can be amazing. Especially depending on what your board state and everything else you got going on. So like, but it just felt a little bit too slow for the deck overall. It was one of the slower cards. Now, it's not like an absolute no way I would run this in a constructed deck ever again. Like, I would still consider keeping it in because it's just like there's kind of sparse on good playable relics. And this is a really good fixer, especially for 2 factions. Now, if I went 3 factions, I'd have to run this. I still don't know if it would be good enough. Ooh. Pause. I had a mosquito on me. It was probably just a string. I hope it was a string. I'm not a big fan of mosquitoes. Sorry, everybody. If you see a mosquito hanging on me, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, back to business. So Linrise Codex. This card totally overperformed. I would run 4 of these before I ran 4 Grodov's Burden, even though the flying, like, I mean, it seems like why would I want to have flying multiple times? No, there's so much more to this card. You want to get to that flying, like, you just want to get to that flying in general, like, so having more of them makes you do it. And then if you've got Antique Polisher, or if you've got your Shardbinder, this card just devastates opponents. The pay 6 to draw a card for each of your single faction units came up a couple times in way late game. It was okay. I've drawn like I think I drew max 1 card off it, so it's not that big of a deal. But that Crystallize is just so powerful. Okay, you got a relic, and then you stun every opponent and deal 1 damage to them. The damage isn't that relevant most of the time. Like I've had it like kill 2 units, just boom right there. But where it really shines is just huge stun all over the place. It's great. Yeah, so the draw 6 isn't that, or the pay 6 to draw cards isn't that great, but the Crystallize was amazing. And the flying does help a lot. Alright, moving on. One sec. Alright, so let's talk about Waystone Fragment now. This card, okay, so there was a, what is it called? Zenin Obelisk. Yes, there's a card called Zenin Obelisk that was this card, but when you had 8 max power, it turned into double, like +2/+2. So that was its benefit. Then, of course, there's also a 5 cost, I think it's a common version of this, that just gives +1/+1. What is it called? Horn of Plenty. Yes, it's good in draft, very good in draft. This card also puts out 2/1/1s, which, like, it might seem kind of small, like it also heals you, which is really relevant against more aggressive aggro. But this card is crazy good. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of units in here, but sneakily with the Rakton eggs and of course the Waystone Fragment themselves, it's really good. Like it does happen a lot. That it just like gives you a +3 bonus on the board. Which might not seem much, but it's spread across 3 units. So, and it could be as much as like if you play this with a Shardbinder out, right there you've got 2/1/1s that each get the +1/+1 bonus. So that's 4/4 in stats total, plus another +1/+1. So 4 cost 5/5 just for that, and you gain 3 life. And you can have more than that out. And they can have other abilities with like Linrise Codex, for example. So Waystone Fragment is awesome. Excellent card. Excellent card. Gives this deck a little bit more oomph and board stall-esque state. Push, a little bit of push with the Kantha's Outrider, all that good stuff. Then we got Grodov's Burden. This card was pretty good. It wasn't like, okay, so it was just good a lot of the time because it has Bury the Past on it. And if you could pay the reduced cost of 3 and then 3 for Bury the Past from your Antique Polisher, or if you could play this for 5 and then get the Bury the Past for free, it's pretty great. And then same thing, or a similar thing, I guess, if you can draw cards for 2 every turn, or for 2 every turn, and then auto play any single factory units you draw, it can get pretty crazy. Now you only get that reduction on the first for Shardbinder, so keep that in mind when you're playing this. But it's removal. The Exalted just makes your board state, like, you only need 1 for the Exalted, though. That's where it's kind of like it didn't shine as much. I feel like Linrise Codex, I could have done a more even split. I don't own extra copies of Linrise Codex, but I mean, I think it would be worth considering. If you have more, of course, run them and reduce your Grodov's Burden count potentially. Waystone Fragment needs to stay exactly where it is. It is fantastic where it's at. And then Grodov's Burden probably could be reduced to like 2, maybe 3, because that Bury the Past is pretty good. And of course the draw on both of them. I would not take the numbers of these past 5 total. In fact, I would probably go, if I redid this or did this again in the future, I'd probably go 3 Linrise Codexes and 2 Grodov's Burdens. I think that'd be good. Or maybe even a total of 6, like 3 and 3. Just see how that feels and see like which one I'm needing more. Okay, so that brings us finally to calibrate. Originally, this was seek power in the early testing, like not until I got like to try deck did I put calibrate in. I was like, let's try calibrate, let's see how it does, and it did phenomenal. Like I've never had it miss so far, and that's like 8, like okay. Since I put in calibrate, maybe 13 to 20 games. I'd say 13 to 15 games more realistically since I've used calibrate, like in this format, um, like in this deck format right here. And then of course that includes the mono time too. So calibrate's been really good, honestly. Like it's just perfect for this deck. Like you need to get to your higher cost. Like if you don't get Antique Polisher, you don't get Shardbinder, or if you just need it later. Like a lot of the time I use that for power, but when you're like full up on power, it's not a bad top deck to just be able to choose which of the relics you want from the top. Or if you just happen to be in a situation where a relic is more powerful than a power. Okay, and then of course the power bases, in my opinion, unless you're in 3 factions, for most of Expedition should be pretty simple. Very low on the primal sigil count though is something that's noteworthy. Kind of gets fixed with calibrate, and then of course we run our 4 allotted insignias and seats for Elysian, and 12 time sigils. Okay, so now the difference comes. Overall, love the deck. Now let's rate it. All right, so just gonna open up this document here. So okay, first things first, we're going to go with our deck type. This is an aggro deck, 100%. Like you might be able to call it mid-range aggro, and that's the only of, I guess I have to add aggro to my dictionary, which if you ask me, I would say it was definitely part of my vocabulary. So that is getting added. Then I got this little thing I wrote, notes. Okay, so the power level of the deck overall was pretty high. It's above average in my opinion. Like on ladder, it just fits. Probably I would say it's a overall straight up just power level of 6. Like it's pretty powerful. Synergy, that is something that I would say is very, very high. Extremely high synergy. You've got everything just seems to work together and click together here. You've got your lucky prospector synergizing with a Racktonic, like just everything. Relics matter in this deck. It's crazy. Very, very versatile, powerful deck here. So I would give synergy a 9 at least. Like, okay, now let's see, versatility. Okay, this deck is pretty darn versatile. See what I wrote here. Yeah, I would say you could even say it's high versatility. The reason I would consider it versatile is because you could fly over with your Outriders, and then later on the Linrise Codex is just a huge, like board wipe, stun, everything gets flying that doesn't already have flying. The Eye of Winter sneakily just jumping in there and stunning whatever you want for indefinite future. A Racked on Egg just coming out of the woodwork, just being like, boom, okay, I'm a relic right now, but now I'm a unit. The Sodi Spell Shaper, everything about this deck, like a lot of good sneaky removal, even Grodov's Burden. Waystone Fragment being a good fixer and just like giving you an unexpected burst of power. And then Antique Polisher doing the same thing, like, oh my gosh, nobody expects you to drop like a turn 4 Grodov's Burden. It's not that outlandish, but still, it's pretty good. Or drop a turn 5 Grodov's Burden with Shardbinder and just bury the past something. That's nuts. It feels great to do. Yeah, so the versatility is, I would say the versatility is high, and I would go ahead and give this 7 points. Yeah, 7 points for versatility. Let's move on to the next point factor. What would we call that? Like 6. So pin. Anyways, the next star point. Yeah, we might end up like coining the term star point system because there's 5. Anyways, survivability. How well can this survive against like aggro or just like things that go super tall? I think it's a pretty survivable deck, but I think that survivability, if it had a weakness, that would be it. It comes out of the gates early with some powerful stuff, but it doesn't have an absurd amount of life gain. The removal it has is surprising, unexpected, versatile, and really strong, but it's not overabundant. It just doesn't happen. Like the removal is expensive sometimes, attacked to conditions that are just odd, but really powerful. And that kind of reduces its survivability in that regard. So I would say that I would have to give it a survivability of 5. And then we're going to talk about budget. So real quick, just a note, I would give this a 7 on budget. So now let's go over why. And that's a 7 out of 10. I think it's pretty budget friendly. So we've got our scores. We could total them up. Let me do that quick math real quick. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. Sorry about that. So our total for this deck is 34. Boom. So let's jump back into here real quick, and then we're just going to talk about budget as far as, you know, our legendary cards, and our rares. We're not going to discuss the difference between common and uncommon, mainly because it's not that big of a difference in the grand scheme of things. Maybe if you're early in, like if you have a deck that's all uncommons, it can make a big difference. And whether you're going to build it like in your first early play, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all. I'm just saying for the purposes of considering a deck budget or not, the legendary rares versus the actual just blue rares, like it's just, that's where you're really getting your difference. So and I don't know if there's not really anything I would cut from this. I might change a couple things around. In fact, add a couple legendaries potentially, like for an alternate build of this. The Modern Time build is a little like it doesn't run the Rise Codex, so that helps it a little bit. Let's start talking about this. Antique Polisher, a weird wonky rare I've never seen anyone run. That kind of hurts it in the budget department a little bit. But I would move it up. I would say run 4 of these. I love this card. It was very fun to run, and it fits extremely niche role. It's an aggressive unit in a relics synergy matters deck. That's what it does. That does it well. Does it in an extremely unique way. Like the stats, having endurance randomly tacked onto it, just it's crazy. Crazy card. Awesome. I'm glad it exists. It is fun and just makes this deck just shine. Polishing jokes. Because he's an antique polisher. Anyways. Alright. So Eye of Winter. I feel like a lot of people probably have this. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not trying to say, why don't you have Eye of Winter? But it's from Empty the Throne, so like just like packs of Empty Throne get like tossed at you, especially if you sign up to Direwolf Digital's newsletter, Eternal newsletter, which I highly recommend because it is jam-packed full of value. Not only do you get lots of information in a great way, you also get free packs. And those sometimes are like the current set of the new set, but a lot of the time they're Empty the Throne. So that helps you get stuff like Eye of Winter, for example. And I think this is a pretty neat card. I feel like it's a little bit more replaceable. Like, if you like, it's hard to explain. There's not a lot of relics in Expedition that can be as good as Eye of Winter, but you could run Permafrost. I mean, if you have Permafrost, you could just run Permafrost. It doesn't have the same synergy level, So you're gonna have it like come up like that's one of the big problems I was having with the monotime, other than I was having lots of problems with, well, there's 3 problems with the monotime. I'll discuss that after I go over the budget real quick, just to give it its little shine of light. Okay, now Sodi Spell Shaper, this card is crazy, even post nerf. I know a lot of people might have uncrafted it. I am guilty of this. I uncrafted it, and then I was like, you know what? I don't know what it was. It's not this deck, but it was another deck I was playing. It's like I want Sodi Spell Shapers again. It was not only fun to play, just a really good card. Since it was nerfed, it doesn't feel as like bad to play against, in my opinion. It's like it feels like you like if you had problems against Sodi Spellshaper before, like you feel kind of like justified. You're like, okay, cool. At least it got a nerf. Okay, cool. Like, and then a lot of people stop using it, so it's not as frequent. So, less pressure from the card. Also the premium looks amazing. It has nothing to do with budget. Like, got one just randomly pulled. But beautiful premium. This card is bananas. I don't think this is a replaceable card. It has no synergy with the deck, but that's like that it makes it 9 on synergy because it's so good though. Waystone Gate is not a rare. Okay, so Linrise Codex is a legendary. And I would say more of them and less of Grotto's Burden, especially if you have them already. I would use as many Linrise Codexes as you have. And then the other way is true too. That's kind of what I had to do because I only have one Linrise Codex, but I feel that this card was powerful enough to run more of. Grotto's Burden, I could say you could run 4 Linrise Codex and 1 Grotto's Burden if that's what you have. If I was gonna build it, I would say 2 Grotto's Burden and 3 Linrise Codex. Like I would go up 1 Linrise Codex and down 1 Grotto's Burden optimized. If you're just building it, you don't have any of it. But yes, that's where we got our legendary, so that kind of hurts it a bit. And then Waystone Fragment. It's another rare, but it fits into so many decks. Like, unlike a lot of the rares that we've been talking about, and by a lot of the rares, I mean, there's not too many rares here. I'm talking like the Antique Polisher, very niche card. Grotto's Burden, use a little bit more. Linrise Codex, I haven't seen it that much, but it's ran. Eye of Winter, very niche. Like it's very rarely run. I don't even know if it's right for this deck. But it feels right. It feels pretty good. Sodi Spellshaper and Wasted Fragment are the 2 play sets that I would say you're going to use. So if you're going to pick, like, these are cards I definitely am using, those would be the ones. And I feel like if you built a more budget version of this deck, it would be a little bit less to do with the relic synergy. Because you're losing a lot of power by having less relics. You want to keep that mark up. And I tried a couple of different builds that were a little bit more budget than this. Just none of them panned out, as you saw. The best one I had, like, I actually got some games before I started filming. I was like, okay, this is gonna work. Was the monotime. It just fell flat in the recording. I couldn't get another win to save my life. So we're gonna talk on that real quick. Where I think, okay, so that's the budget. So I get to 7 out of 10. I actually kind of like drew up a point system before we talk about the monotime that I just kind of wanted to talk about for not just the total, but like about how I got to 7 out of 10 specifically on budget because it's the one I thought about most of as far as scoring. It's a pretty simple system. I just said minus 4 points for every legendary out of 100, and then minus 1 point out of 100 per rare, not playset, just per specific rare. So, and then total, I got minus 33 points with all the rares and the legendaries. And then I just said, okay, so take that divided by 10, so it's in a 10-point score to fit the rest of the scoring, so I can add a total at the end. And it was 67. So I was like, okay, let's round up to 7. So there you go. So 67, or 6.7. Very, very technically and kind of arbitrarily speaking. And I said 7 because I feel like it's a pretty good budget. Like, I mean, it's possible. Like, I think, let me see. So you have 50 cards. So if you have 50 cards and everything in your deck's legendary, that's you're getting minus 200. So that would be like a minus 20. So it'd be negative 10. That's crazy. I just realized how the system works. But I mean, if it gets a 0, it gets a 0. I don't think any of the decks I would build like can actually be a real deck. Like instead of just stuffing every legendary I have into a deck and then throwing in 25 power. Yeah. Mono time. Let's give it its moment in the light real quick just to see where it fell. Wasn't getting enough power. It was too slow and it didn't have as much removal, so it just like felt weaker. I had a little bit. I was trying to see what I could do with an empower mechanic, kind of like Racked Egg. It just didn't do it. If you like this video and if you like the new style of video, which I actually thought was very fun, go ahead and like and subscribe. Comment down below what you think about the new scoring system. And also go check out Strictly Better MTG. Even if you're like a strictly Eternal player, he's a channel that does Magic the Gathering. Hopefully, there's some people out here on my channel who also play Magic the Gathering, wants to look at some budget decks. He is where I got the system, or at least what I base my system on for scoring all this whole deck. And I plan to use that system in the future until somebody tells me, like Strictly Better MTG, Dev himself, tells me, hey, don't do that. But I like the system and I want to continue doing it in the future. And I also like want to see how the decks compare over time. I kind of wish I like had retrofitted, I could retrofit the system into them. I might go back if I have some free time, just go and put it in the description. Like this is what I think the score is for this deck. But if not, in the future I plan on doing it. So it'll be like archived here. Have a great night. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you so much for joining me for this deck tech.